are some doors that are opened and can never be closed again. Things that you see and can never unsee again. There are times for talk and others that call for much more. This is one of those times. The work we do now, the ground we're laying, is paving the way for communities and generations yet to come. The power of our voice is shaking structures, bringing truth to power, and forcing closed hearts and gates to open wider. The rumble of our feet is trembling across the land and the world, the passion and love inside spilling out in blocks and hoods everywhere. The resolve in our eyes says we shall not be moved, we shall not be denied, and this trouble will not last always. In the story of a single man, a father, a brother, a son, stopped the world in its tracks and made us all take a deep look at who we truly are, the ghosts of our past, and the path to freedom that maybe now feels within our reach. They held the man down for more than 9 minutes, but they can never hold down his legacy and the change that is surely coming to America. But only action matters now.
Use this as an opportunity to be better and do better for those around us.
A new American story is being written at this very moment, and we can't afford to wait a second longer. So ask yourself this: is it time yet?
Earlier this week, I wrote to people that this was not an anniversary, nor is it a milestone, but George Floyd's murder, which was 1 year ago on Monday, was a day that, or Tuesday, was a day that, broke the world's heart and set a lot of people in motion. So today we're going to dedicate Bourbon Street to George Floyd and encourage you to sit down and be ready for the last 10 minutes of the show. We're going to show you an amazing film from Rogers. So, hi, Don. Welcome back. I know we missed last week, and it's good to see you.
Good to see you. It was good to miss last week, and it was sunny out, and we could actually go outside. So that was a good crossover. Now,
it's not legal to go outside in Ontario, so how did you manage that?
I don't always follow the rules. I guess it's a law, but anyway.
This morning, pardon me?
Sorry, we are going to get in today on the vaccines to see how wrong I was.
Well, before we do that, it started out raining this morning in Toronto. Now I think it's snow or hailing or something, but people are smiling in Calgary, in BC, in different provinces as the world and our country awakes from COVID. Let's hear from the Premier of Alberta about 2021 Calgary Stampede.
If we hit these targets, as we think we will, it'll all be possible. The only constraint will just be timing. So I just said to my staff last night, knowing where we were going with today's announcement, let's think about doing a Premier's pancake breakfast. We hadn't planned on it, but let's see if we can put one together in a few weeks' time. So I encourage community groups to start planning towards that if they'd like to. I think there will be I'll tell you, I'd love to be in the griddle rental business in Calgary today. There's going to be some pretty good business. So we're now in the position to give people this degree of certainty so they can plan. I do know there will be a rodeo at the very least because we worked with the feds to get exemptions on or relaxations on quarantine requirements for foreign rodeo performers that are going to be headed north. I think Mayor Nenshi told me that there won't be a permit for the Calgary Stampede Parade, but maybe instead the Stampede will have a scaled down parade on the Stampede grounds. But the bottom line is this. Conklin is coming, as I understand it, for the Midway. The Cowboys are coming for the rodeo. In terms of public health restrictions, I fully anticipate we'll have as much Stampede as the community can put on.
All right, buddy, let's fire up Weekly Pulse. Let's see how wrong you were on vaccines.
So here's a little vaccine update. CTV News, Canada's COVID vaccination rate likely to surpass US. CNN, Canada expect to pass US on first dose vaccinations, demand declines among Americans. So what does this mean overall to when we're going to be done? 80% fully vaccinated. When I was presenting this in February, that was a 2024 number. It's actually September 23rd, 2021.
I remember you back in February.
And when we look at that is, if you set your expectations low enough, you can actually exceed them. While the US and the UK is totally open, we set our expectations so far out that thousands of businesses and thousands of Canadians will die due to the lack of supply. However, the fact is, in a terrible situation, we see the fact that we will have, they did 408,000, which was a record number. 86% of all supply are in Canadians' arms today. So the provinces and municipalities are doing a tremendous job. The fact is, if you're happy with September 23rd, given what's going on in the US and UK, you might want to set your expectations a little higher. But again, I didn't think they'd hit September 30th. I would have lost money. Thankfully, the US has given us a bunch of doses we weren't supposed to get. But anyway, so I was wrong there. So let's see what's going on, what the impact is. First question, there's 1.78 billion vaccines given out. That's 23 per 100. That's in the global number there you see. The US has given out 87 doses per 100. What's Canada? 58 per 100, 88 per 100, or 105 per 100?
Doses per people?
Yeah, so 58 doses per 100 people. Like what percent?
And you're asking me this.
Yeah, the higher the better.
Well, I'm going to go with, but we could have some seconds. So let's go with 105.
58.
What?
Remember, CTV and CNN said they're surpassing the US. How is that possible? Because if we haven't learned before, politicians and the news lie. I'm not trying to be Donald Trump here, but don't believe the news. They're trying to sell papers. They're trying to get you to watch. They're full of shit. The fact is, but you talk to people, it's like we're way ahead of the US. On what measure? Certainly not doses per person. So let's look at what's going on next. This is newer information. So US sees significant drops in vaccinations over the past week. And then from May 10th from Forbes, vaccinations are now declining in all but 4 states. Here's where the drop-off's the worst. And that's a person from England. So let's see what the implications are here. Where does the US rank in fully vaccinated? Because remember, 1 dose is half done. So do you want to remove half the cancer if you have cancer? Or do you want to remove it all? So when we set our expectations so low, so does the US versus the UK. UK ranks 9th. Do you think the US ranks 67th in fully vaccinated, 21st, or 6th? Especially considering the Washington Post and Forbes News.
67.
And you are wrong. It's ranked 6th. They have 40% done. Double vaccinated. Huh? It's fantastic news. The news people are full of shit. The Canadian press
sell newspapers.
The Canadian press somehow picks up on this. The US is 6th. Every other country above it doesn't have over 10 million people in their country. The US has done a phenomenal job, yet you read the press and they're doing horrible. Again, if I can give one piece of recommendation, do not listen to the news. Do your own work because they are useless. So let's go to the next one, Eric. Here's a tough one, but there's common terms regarding vaccinations. Comoros and Equatorial Guinea. What are they? Potential side effects from AstraZeneca? Special equipment needed to transport the Pfizer vaccine? Countries that match Canada in double vaccinations? Or names of new 1-dose vaccinations available in Asia and Africa?
Don, why are you picking on Comoros and Equatorial Guinea? I'm going to go with C.
You are correct. I had to look them up on a map, and the fact is, that's who we compete with. That's our aspiration. Not the fact that we deserve more, but given our GDP and the status and the fact of our manufacturing capabilities, you'd think we'd be a little bit better than that. I didn't know if you may know where they were, but anyway, let's go to the next one, Eric. So we currently ranked 67th in the world. Mm-hmm. The US is getting trashed because they're stopping. They're ranked 6th in the world on people actually double vaccinated. The only thing we rank worse than 67th in is our men's World Cup soccer team. They're 72nd. But you can't think of many things you aspire. So if we aspire to be 67th in the world at anything, we should maybe check out why we might not have a bright future. If we set our expectation a little higher, it might work out greater. Let's go to the next one. We're almost done here. Biggest issues. This is George. This is what's going on. Biggest issues facing people today: personal health or financial health together, social unrest, diversity, and inequality, personal mental health or family mental health, or none of these. It's the same across all 4. What's the biggest issue they face?
Number 4.
You are correct. 40%, and you'll see this rise. Look at personal health or financial health. How can you worry about social unrest if you have personal and financial health concerns? It's not that they don't care. There's just bigger issues. And that's why, look in the UK and Australia. It's only 8 and 4%. It doesn't mean it's not important, but but it can't be a priority till we move it. So let's look at young people.
Wouldn't you attribute a little of this, though, to the positive feelings that vaccines are going to be the cure-all?
But certainly not that's for the none of these. It's not the cure-all for social unrest, diversity, and inequality. That's for sure.
I just feel like optimism pushes these numbers down. That's my point. I'm asking you to speculate a little bit.
But it's been, so even during the depths, the worst one, the US was having 400,000 cases a day and 3,500 to 4,000 deaths. 30% thought there was no issue.
Fair enough. All right.
So it has increased a bit. One last bit, among 13 to 34-year-olds, the number one issue is none of these, but among the ones remaining, personal health or personal mental health, family mental health, financial health, social unrest, diversity, and inequality, what do you think is number one?
Number one is number one.
And look at the U.S., who was not locked down, who has vaccines at 18%, family mental health at 12%, so 30%, versus Canada a bit higher. The U.K. at 55%. How can they focus on number 4, social unrest, diversity, inequality, if they have personal health, mental health, and family mental health issues? They have to worry about themselves before they can worry about others, and that's why we need to promote it so much. That's it for this week. Hope you learned a bit. The one thing is, press and politicians, don't listen to them.
Well, and I agree with you. And as optimistic as I am about the vaccines, we still have a supply issue here. So let's move on to sponsorship backs on Bourbon Street. I know we're going to change up a little bit this week. Tell us what's going to happen, Don.
On Bourbon Street, I'm going to ask a few questions of you.
All right. So
versus moderate. So anyway, the changes are, we're going to get your perspective on some things going on in the world.
All right, let's roll the Michelob case study.
We have seen some unbelievable things in basketball.
This is something out of a movie.
Games have been suspended.
This is the last night of NBA games.
The league will use this hiatus to determine the next steps.
We play games without the fans? Yeah. No, it's impossible. I ain't playing.
It's a whole new experience with Michelob Ultra. Virtual fans are in attendance.
Yo, this is sick, dude. You just scan a Michelob bottle to see if you want a seat.
That energy and bond between people is an essential part of the experience.
It's pretty crazy, man. You can literally talk to your people in your section.
My brother right here. I hear I'm sitting next to Shaq. What's up, Brett?
That's a bomb!
Dwayne Wade in the Miami Heat section.
Snoop Dogg.
Mickey Mouse.
Scottie Pippen.
We see it, Chuck.
All of you exercise your voice and your rights.
It is a whole new game.
Different kind of viewing experience.
I like that virtual crowd that they had.
The virtual fan board is unbelievable.
The NBA is leading the way, as usual.
It's fantastic what's happening in this bubble.
Why, yo?
What you did see, eh?
Oh, ridiculous!
What a beautiful pass.
I like this a lot. I want to do this more.
This is like a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic opportunity.
So once again, we see when you have constraints, you end up with solutions. Do you see something like this staying in sport when the live fans return?
I completely do. And I think it actually, one of the angles we'll need to look at are sports that will actually be built to not have fans in person, where literally you're creating a studio-like environment that might be broadcast around the world. But I also think that it provides you with a VIP access for a hybrid future.
Do you think it'd be as powerful if Barack wasn't there in the round mound and the celebrity there? Do you think it'd be as, like, do you think that's the key formula, or do you think it's the individual fans, or do you think it's a combination of both?
Well, look, I think what we're seeing in the marketing and sponsorship world is we all look at the big brands, the Pepsis, the Budweisers, the car companies. The technology companies are really where the action is. So the ability for Microsoft to build the technology to bring this to life, I think is amazing. And the fact, to your point, then you add this lead factor. I mean, hey, think about every activation you've ever measured. How many of them have been able to include the ex-president of the United States?
Zero. So one thing though, it is sponsorship X on Bourbon Street. How does this make you feel, or your team think about sponsorship X differently? The conferences you throw on, the Tokyos, the Nashvilles.
Well, the events, Tokyo didn't happen. But at one point last year, we were thinking if the Olympics were going to happen, but a lot of people couldn't go, we actually literally had this concept of me kind of going there with this and running the conference somewhat virtually. I think there's two aspects to it. One is any conference, any sporting event, any fundraiser now needs to understand you can actually have a live global interactive audience there. But again, I go back to what are you curating that is personal versus engaged? And look, the one thing about that video that I love, and I remember that quote, you probably do as well. The fact that they got LeBron to change his mind and he won a title.
Right.
But LeBron is the NBA. Adam Silver isn't the NBA. Right. The owners aren't like LeBron is the commissioner, general manager, and MVP of the NBA.
Absolutely. Let's go to the next one. Great ad or great campaign.
Absolutely. So you want to look at the British Telecom?
Yeah, British Telecom, please.
All right, let's roll. This is Hope United.
I made a change in using social media just because of a barrage of abuse.
Daily I'd get abuse on social media.
Yeah, I've had so much over the years.
Racist abuse.
Homophobia.
Sexism. Death, rape.
Hoping that, I do a serious injury.
Just hatred.
But it's not just on the pitch, it's everywhere. 1 in 10 of us have received online abuse in the past year. Which is why BT have created Hope United. Top footballers from all 4 home nations coming together to tackle online hate and give us the digital skills we need to help fight it. We all have a duty to speak up and do more. And as experts in tech, we're proud to be in a position to help. Join Hope United and help tackle online hate.
How do you feel about this? It's hate versus a specific cause. It's overarching. It's about denigrating people versus one individual cause. What's your thought on individual focus versus broad-based impact?
Well, I think hate is the cause as opposed to an organization being the cause. And the analogy I'd use would be in Canada when Bell decided they were going to build an umbrella around mental health with Let's Talk, because it really wasn't a national mental health platform. So kudos to British Telecom, who are basically supporting a social media, boycott, which actually impacts their financials, right? Less people on social, less data, less bandwidth. I think to your point, hate is the cause. Being anti-hate is the cause.
Can't agree with you more, because you get so many more people that have experienced. And the one thing, they didn't make it about race or religion or region. It made about 1 in 10 people have had hate online. Like, that's just a fact. It doesn't just people. And I think there's a big benefit if we talk about people versus subgroups, because subgroups divide, whereas people is universal, obviously. So again, fantastic move. Let's move on to one more thing that we look at is how to impact burgers.
It is National Burger Day.
We look at this. We've seen some people try and unite. You see Ronald there. You see, I can't remember the Burger King guy, his name, but what's your thought on trying to unite?
Well, this isn't about uniting. This is about super clever. So it's National Burger Day. I don't eat red meat anymore, but maybe I'll have a chicken burger or a tofu burger or something. This is a genius concept. And so look closely. Every creative person I know this week has put this on their social, has shared it, where they've actually, so the top 3 burger chains in the US do not sell Pepsi. I actually didn't realize it. And it's been 30 years. So, Pepsi claims they've done research that show that consumers like Pepsi more with burgers than Coke. And then they decided to show that, a Wendy's burger, a McDonald's burger, a BK would go better with Pepsi. And this little creative sleight of hand where they're using origami to show the Pepsi logos embedded in the packaging. Pretty clever, but I have some skepticism I'll share with you in a second.
Do you think that the research has any basis? Like, you think it's 100% fact-based if they're not the largest selling brand in the world?
I think that it's interesting and could be valid, could not. I'll throw that over to you. What do I know about research? I don't even know for sure it really is National Burger Day today. But I have to say, I think this is genius creative. I actually think the backstory is bullshit. I think somebody at Alma DDB, who's the agent behind this, came up with this really cute creative thing. And now they're backfitting a cultural tension into it because they wanted to run it. And I think it's super creative. It takes a little bit of thinking. And I'd also be curious, if I tested it, is this appealing to us in the marketing world and the creative community? But does Joe or Jane public care about it?
We will go test that. And there's an elegance in simplicity. Like, to do things complicated is easy. To come up with this simple of a concept takes great minds and time.
And, shout out to my pal Andy King there in the top right tweet 2 years ago at Sponsored Beck's Nashville or Toronto. One of the best, most visually and mentally disturbing interviews I've ever done in my life. Talking to Andy King and talking about him taking one for the team at the Fire Fest to unload, get water off the thing. If you have not seen that interview, DM me. I still have it on video. But Andy King apparently likes his burgers with Pepsi.
Yeah, absolutely.
And knowing Andy, he'll do anything to get a Pepsi.
So we're moving to last call, I presume?
Yeah. So listen, great show today. Great seeing you again. We're actually going to do something a little bit different for last call today. Donovan Bennett worked with his colleagues at Rogers to create a film called 929. A Toronto agency, Tier Zero, did this. It's really back to George Floyd's murder, their call to action, what it's like to be Black. Some great creatives worked on this, Charlie Lindsay, Jamal Berger, and Dude Pinlack. And so we want you to just pull up a chair and watch for the next 9.5 minutes, and we'll see you next week, right, Tom?
See you next week.
Ignorance and power is the enemy of justice, and no longer can we stand for that which misrepresents us, pressing its knee on the windpipe from that which the voice of a people emanates so beautifully. Change is not what we see, but how we see it. To make real change and rearrange the structures keeping us in chains, we must change our minds through acts of love. We gotta be it. Let not the deaths of those that pass be in vain. Use all of the gifts that our ancestry claims to realize the dreams of those that died in the name of truth and light. Set out to guide us on the path that was paved in search of freedom and justice. And no, it's not a cop going to jail for murder.
If I must be honest with you, in Canada, they'll be like, oh, there's no racism, something, but they don't even understand it. I'm constantly getting racially profiled, and I understand it because, you walk into a store, you just want to buy something. They're always, asking questions, when it's, creaky and it's falling, you're like, oh, do you need help? No, I don't need help, thank you, I know what I'm getting. And they're just constantly following you, you realize that you're being targeted.
The Black community is not a monolith. Everybody has their own story and their own backgrounds that they can reflect on. So I think it's very important to acknowledge that before anything and moving forward.
Being cruel to people has just been normalized, and I don't get that. I don't get just how somebody can take a look at another group of people and be like, I don't like you just because of the way that you look. That's trash. That's trash to me, it really is.
Okay, police are friends. There's a facade, Canadians as being these nice people, that we don't really have racism, but our whole nation was built on the slaughtering of Indigenous peoples. There's a continued denial based on our systems of oppression. And if we continue to deny it, then it makes it hard for those who are oppressed to name it.
Being in white spaces and talking about these things, it has been incredibly enlightening, and it's been incredibly hard.
Just hope that things will work out, that even our children and grandchildren may have a better setup than we have when we came here in 1966. They would look at you and then psych you out before they rent you a place.
We're fighting a long time, but the message is still the same. We're fighting for equality. We're fighting for an equal chance at living, achieving our dreams, being anything that we want. We're fighting for George Floyd.
We sat there and we watched and we held our breath, and it was tough for everybody. It's a collective trauma, and I think we're all just hoping that at some point we can release that breath.
When he got to the point where he was crying for his mother, I stopped breathing, because that's what mothers do for their sons, is they stop breathing so that they can breathe. I felt like, how could the world, because it was the world, be so inhumane to somebody? I didn't want to close my eyes that night after watching it, because I felt like I was going to be seeing my son and hearing my son. Picked up the phone and I called my son and I said, you don't even have to say anything. I just need you to I just need to hear you breathing. I just need to know that you're okay, and I just need you to get home safe.
My bad, bro. Holy bro. That's weird. I never get emotional like that, but thank you.
The most beautiful change that's happened since George Floyd's tragic murder is the conversation has been busted wide open to the point where nobody can say they didn't know anymore. And so the knowledge is there if you want it, and it's undeniable.
In terms of the privilege of being black, is when you're black, you were loved before you were here. So no matter where you are, no matter what country, what ethnicity, if you were black, someone went through something for you to be here. And then you have that obligation to pay that forward to the next generation.
What is the dopest part about being black?
Well, how much time do you have? What isn't dope about being black?
I don't know where to start. I love black women. That's my weakness.
It comes to so many things. There is so much pride I have being part of black communities. We are out there and we're showing everyone that no matter what you throw at us, we're gonna come back.
I just like being black, you know? It's like I've been black my whole life, so, you know, like I obviously have to embrace it.
Is like just naturally being cool. You know, it's just the way you walk, it's the music you listen to, the history, and you know, just being more, I feel like black people in general are more connected to our culture, regardless if you have a Caribbean background, African background.
Literally anything that's good, black people either made it or made it cool. We're talking about fashion, we're talking about art, we're talking about food, we're talking about
swag, and I hate that word, but there's a certain energy, a certain vibe with just being black that I think comes with being this amazing skin color that I have.
Man, nobody makes lemonade out of lemons better than us. Literally, that's our history. Oxtail is fire. We make things that are amazing out of pieces of food or culture that other people discard. So we, better than anyone, take what the world gives us and makes it something so hot that the rest of the world wants it.
To me, being Black in 2021 means duality. You're a master of duality. You're a master of finding the joy and the beauty in that experience. And you're also a master of being tired.
We also are the blueprint for activism, right? We stand at the forefront, we demand our rights from kingdom come.
The world feeds off our energy. And to be able to be growing up in that culture, immersing myself in that culture in all aspects, it's always given me a liberating feeling.
The dopest part about being Black is our resilience, our different shades, our hues, being strong people, coming from kings and queens, our legacy.
I'm someone that has a child of my own. Everything that he is seeing, what I surround him around, is what his future will be. All those Black men and women that he's surrounded with are all people that are so brilliant in what they do. I'm surrounded by them every day. Ironically enough, I'm surrounded by them right now, so it's very incredible.
If you look out in the garden, you don't see one color flowers. You see all different colors flowers. That's a beautiful garden, isn't it? So, just as we are different colors, different nationality, different language, that's a beautiful garden the Lord has created. So we got to learn to live and to grow, set examples for each other, and we'll get along. And you show the world that we're God's children. And it doesn't matter who we are, love. The greatest of all is love.